As you would expect, with the arrival of a new year, there are hundreds, if not thousands of new manhwas and webtoons being released. Some of them are good, some of them are just another take on a GameFi dungeon bullshit. But there are 10 of them that you can't pass up and you need to read right now. Hey, I don't mean right now. I mean after the video. Jesus, man. Jesus. It is worth noting that not all of those manhwas were released in 2022, but also very close to the end of 2021, so just understand there is an acceptable margin to enter this list. So without further ado, in The Healing Priest of the Sun we are introduced to Kai. He is an MD online player who is one of the most famous games at the moment. But what sets Kai apart from other players is his choice of class. Although many want to be a DPS or a tanker, Kai chose to be a cleric. He learned early on in his life that if he did right by others, sooner or later something good would happen to him. Personally, I think that his class should be monk. Just saying. Because of this, Kai actually acts as if he were a real cleric, helping players and NPCs, even if it makes him seems like a pushover. Until one day, while helping one of the NPCs, he is betrayed, and in his moment of greatest need, he begins to pray to God. At this point, he triggers an in-game event that allows him to perform a test to be the Priest of the Sun, a mythic and extremely OP class. This class has the kindness attribute that allows each good deed that you perform in-game to increase any of the player's attributes by 1 point. Kai then sets out into the world of MD Online, performing good deeds while wanting to find out more about what happened to him. Healing Priest of the Sun is extremely well drawn, with a gorgeous and fine art. It also has a light humor tones, but that makes each chapter very engaging and fun to follow. Right now, it has a little more than 20 chapters and it started a short time ago, so it's still not possible to understand what is the main plot. But even with the first few chapters, it is already possible to get hooked on. Return of the Disaster Class Hero is the kind of manhwa that you have to stop everything to read. In this universe, in the year 2000, monsters started to appear all over the world. These monsters were called calamities and they were simply unstoppable due to their overwhelming power. It was then that 12 gods, each representing a constellation, decided to bless a group of humans so that they would have some chance of surviving. Editor, that's not the franchise we're talking about. Be a good boy and fix it up. That's better. However, in addition to the 12 chosen saints, there was another person who began to present powers. This is our protagonist, Li Gyan. Li had no blessing from any constellation, and yet he was stronger than any of the other saints. Our story begins to unfold when Li's best friend, Hugo Others, who is the Sagittarius saint, don't you dare,
I can't do it!
predicts his friend's death during the next mission. However, Li, being the strongest, does not believe the prediction and goes along with the group to face the Demon Tower. What Li didn't expect was that he would be betrayed. While Hugo was protecting the exit of the tower, the other saint, who had nothing of saint-like, left Li to face the boss alone. The world then celebrated the end of the Demon Tower. Li, though that, was celebrated as a hero. The saints became even more famous and rich, except for Hugo, who continued to believe that his friend was still alive in the tower. After 20 years, Li finally finishes exterminating the remains of the Demon Tower and is ready to start his revenge on the saints. This is a manhwa with some of the best art and action scenes. Each chapter is eye-catching, something that Solo Leveling knew how to do very well. Return of the Disaster Class Hero knows how to control the amount of characters well, thus having time to explore the relationships and details of each character, and not only being on top of the protagonist. It is, without doubt, one of the best to read. Like all good isekai, another class of students was taken to another world. This time to the world of Fantasia, where a beautiful goddess welcomes this group of heroes who have come to protect this world from the threat of the Great Demon King. Again, as in all good isekai, the gang is super excited and hyped for their powers and the adventure that lies ahead. Focus on that word, lies. Except for Kang, who asks to return to Earth. He worries about his parents and that he can be a worthy hero if he's going to harm his family by being missed. The goddess then bids farewell to the hero and teleports him back to Earth, and everybody lives happily ever after. If it wasn't all a lie. Kang is actually teleported to a distant place in Fantasia to die by the hands of monsters and hide the fact that there is no way back to Earth. He was also cursed, preventing him from gaining XP when facing his opponents and not being able to understand the language that they speak in this world. Fantasia is just like a D&D kind of world, but upside down. Summoning heroes is seen like an entertainment for the pantheon of gods. There is no way to learn magic, you can only inherit it. You don't need to train with swords, as there is a magical tea that accelerates your learning. Everything is just fucked up. It remains for us to follow Kang, trying to survive in this world where he is not welcome, and his desire to take revenge on those that brought him to this suffering. Is this hero for real? Doesn't have a super different or innovative plot than what we've seen in other isekais. What sets it apart is the execution and the characters. In many isekais, the characters who are not the main hero are little explored and gradually left aside. So far, the plot has shown itself to be super interested in presenting not only the hero, but his whole class. It also has a good approach on world building and the relationship between Kang, his rivals, and enemies. Ultra Author starts by introducing us to Lee. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his surname. Who is known for being a hero shuttle. His schoolmates forces him to play this class and carry them on quests in exchange for not getting beaten up. But Lee hates having to play it like this. His main character is an Avenger, a class that is little used because it's very risky since it receives buffs whenever it takes damage. Until one day, while he was grinding to gather potions for his buddies, a pop-up appears on his screen. It prompts if he wants to log out with the current character. Lee doesn't understand the question and confirms it. That's when the plot begins to thicken. The game starts altering his appearance in real life until it matches the character in game, and then the tutorial begins. Lee will play the same game, but this time it takes place in the real life, facing monsters and other players every night, just trying to stay alive. Ultra Author has a lot of fun interactions and a new perspective on the plot of games mixed with real life. The action scenes are good, but the coolest thing is the challenges and the planning it takes to stay alive in the game. Even more when you have to face PKs in real life, which would be just killers. All of this will keep you hooked in the plot as you progress through each chapter. Raven Vault and his entire family are traitors. Traitors of the worst kind. Those who go against their nation and plan to overthrow their own king. Or at least that's what the nobles made it out to be. For the false betrayal of the Vault family, everyone was murdered, except for Raven, who was punished by having to spend 10 years on the edge of the Empire, fighting the worst monsters that exist. There are only two things in Raven's mind: his will to survive and his desire for revenge. But no one wants an heir to the Vault family to return. So for his last mission, Raven will have an almost impossible quest. But to seem a little less impossible, he'll have at least the support of a real dragon and the last heir of the House Pendragon, Aaron Pendragon. And after a difficult battle against a horde of monsters, something really strange happens. Eren and his dragon simply stop battling. This leads to their utter defeat, and at the last moment, just before Raven dies, a powerful magic is completed. And just like that, Raven wakes up, 10 years younger, but in the body of Eren Pendragon. Duke Pendragon mixes several genres into one, such as management, isekai and revenge. The plot itself is not something super innovative, but the excellence in writing and drawing makes it super fun to read and to string along. Kim is bullied every single day at school. He prays that one day his life would change. Heavily influenced by novels, he hopes that a status window will appear and save him. After another day of being humiliated, he starts yelling, "Status window, status window, status window." And when he finally gives up, it appears for the first time to our protagonist. The status window starts offering small quests. Each quest brings bonuses that can be anything from growing 3 centimeters or learning how to jab like a pro. And if King gives up on any of those quests, he'll lose each and every one of his rewards. With each mission that passes, we learn more about the world and the battles that take place between the bullies themselves. Quest supremacy has a very simple concept, which by the way started to have so many similar ones by the end of 2021. The manhwa is very fun, even when sometimes it has a more serious plot, it still carries a light sense of humor. Archmage Streamer starts like many other manhwas with gaming mechanics. It introduces to us this new game, God War. The game is so famous that being a streamer, or even a player in a big guild, gives them an almost infinite amount of money. But unlike other games, this is a gacha. Cough cough, Genshin Impact, cough cough. Your class and the quests that you receive are completely random, and if you want to try your luck again, you have to pay some serious money. So players who are filthy rich tend to do much better than the general public. Hyun, our protagonist, is unfortunately pretty unlucky, and although he spent a high amount of money, he still doesn't have a powerful character. Even so, he continues to play to earn money for his family. His brother is really sick and has to go constantly to the hospital. Until one day, while walking home, he's electrocuted and upon waking up, finds out that his fingerprint was damaged. Unfortunately, to log in God War, you need to have a fingerprint check, and therefore our protagonist needs to create a new character from scratch, and now with no money at all. When everything was going south, for the first time he had a little bit of luck in game, and receives the Archmage class, which is a legendary class, and maybe now his fate would change. Archmage Streamer brings several topics already covered in other titles, but in a more updated way for what we see in games at the moment, such as streaming or pay to win. In a world where magic is needed to accomplish anything, Eric, our MC, sadly doesn't have a drop of mana. He's enrolled in the greatest school of magic, and even though he's one of the smartest students, he still cannot use magic. To prove to everyone that he is capable, and it will be possible to follow the footsteps of his grandfather, the greatest mage that ever lived, Eric continues to study and seek new ways to acquire mana. Until one day his best friend explained that they finally found a dragon's lair, and maybe this is his chance to find a solution for all his problems. What no one expected is that this lair there would be remains of the Demon King's shield. To make matters worse, Eric would be able to fuse with demons. The manhwa knows how to make good use of having a shameless protagonist who only cares about his friends. Plus, the interactions between Eric and the Demon King are pretty funny. For now, Talent Swallowing Magician has not entered yet the main plot, but it so far promises a lot and it's well worth reading. Han has always been a responsible boy, and since the death of his parents, he has been a parent like for his younger brother Yeon. Han worked constantly to make ends meet, living just to support his little brother, until one day, portals starts to appear all over the world and several people start to receive amazing powers. Yeon quickly rose to be a world-renowned S-tier hunter and leader of one of the biggest guilds in the world. Han, on the other hand, is a failed F-level hunter who only has the power to buff people for a few seconds. Unsuccessful and forgotten by his little brother, Han tries his best to increase his power so that one day he can get closer to Yeon again. During what seemed to be a common mission, a dragon appears, one of the rarest monsters in dungeons. Han almost passes away, but is saved by his little brother. At death's door, Han discovers that his brother was always trying to protect him. Yeon had to be distant so his older brother wouldn't become a target by rival guilds. After defeating the dragon, Han receives the power to go back in time once, and a small power boost. Upon returning to the past, he makes peace with Yeon. With the new chance that Han has been given, he decides that this time he will be helpful to his little brother, using his knowledge from the future in a new skill received after defeating the dragon. This new skill makes him the super caretaker. Han has the ability to identify people who will be the strongest in the world and improve their growth rate. That's how Han intends to go about his life, raising S-class hunters. The S-classes that are raised bring some differences and innovation to the style of dungeons, but the most interesting thing is that all protagonists is weak. This puts him in a lot of new positions and the need to constantly be looking for new people that he can train with. In a world where everyone is earning lots of money by fighting monsters coming from dungeons, Kang was unlucky and didn't get any power. So he ended up having to become a garbage collector, though with a little more risk. He specializes in picking up garbage from monsters that have broken out of dungeons. After finishing another day of work, Kang receives the news that his father has passed away and left a night in his island. Kang had always lived alone and didn't know there was still any relatives alive. His father left him a necklace, a stone of return. It allows anyone in a dungeon to be teleported out safely. When Kang finally wears the necklace, he's teleported, but into the last dungeon, the real world. He's teleported to the future, where the human race had failed to defend the earth. Now, it's his turn to survive hell. Hoarding Hell is a manhwa with a great story, but what draws a lot of attention is the care that they take with each character. Whether it is the main character or a monster in a dungeon, they are given due time in development. Plus, it's really fun to see Kang having to balance the time that he's pulled into the future with his real life. Well, this is the top 10. Leave below in the comments if there is any manhwa from 2022 that I haven't talked about and why is it so good. For more content about anime, manga and manhwa, click on the subscribe button and see ya weebs!